boardroom was silent, thick with tension, the kind that clung to the walls like humidity on glass. Tyler Thone stood at the head of the mahogany table, his tailored charcoal suit as sharp as his eyes. The CEO of Thone Security Technology, one of the country's most powerful men in private defense and surveillance, was not used to being challenged, especially not by those seated before him. Yet here they were. "We're only saying this because we care." Robert Mills, the oldest member of the board, began, folding his hands with practiced diplomacy. "It's been 2 years since Elizabeth passed. You've buried yourself in work, Tyler. It's time to start living again." Tyler's jaw clenched. He already knew where this was going. He'd seen it in the side glances, the whispered conversations that ceased the moment he entered a room. Now it was out in the open. Finally. "You think I haven't been living?" Tyler asked, voice low and dangerous. He paced the length of the table, eyes scanning each face. "You think you get to dictate how long I grieve my wife?" "We're not dictating anything," interjected Denise Lang, her voice firmer. "But you're not the man you used to be. You come to meetings, you close deals, but you're hollow. You haven't been to a single industry event in over a year. No public interviews, no global expansion travel. Tyler, the man who built this company, wasn't just brilliant, he was vibrant." Another board member, Raymond Cho, leaned forward. "We're looking to push more aggressively into the overseas market, Japan, Europe, even the Middle East. Their executives and governments still value appearances, family, marriage. Having a partner, even just on paper, makes you relatable, human." Tyler's hands flattened against the table as he leaned in. "I've brought in more contracts in the past 2 years than I did in the 5 before Elizabeth died. You all sat at this same table and applauded my numbers. Military deals, private defense expansion, cloud surveillance systems. You cheered when I signed the Kenyan government, when we launched into Eastern Europe. And now you want to tell me I'm not enough because I don't have a ring on someone else's finger?" Silence. Denise broke it carefully. "It's not about being enough. It's about optics, public relations, emotional well-being. The truth is, you've been surviving, not living. We're not asking you to forget her. Just consider the future, for yourself, for this company." Tyler straightened, his expression darkening. "If this board thinks a marriage license will boost our next quarterly report, then you can take your suggestions and find another company to peddle them to." His voice was steady but cold, like a man walking barefoot across ice. "I don't need reminders to move on. I need partners who understand loyalty, strategy, and trust." He didn't wait for a rebuttal. He turned and walked out, the echo of the door slamming behind him punctuating the finality of his message. Back in his office, the city stretched out in glittering silence behind the glass wall. Tyler stood with his hands in his pockets, staring at the skyline. But he didn't see buildings. He saw her, Elizabeth, laughing in the kitchen of their home, paint smeared on her cheek from redecorating. Her hand in his at a fundraiser gala. Her last voicemail. Her last smile. The grief never truly left. It didn't cry out anymore, but it curled up quietly in his ribs, a constant ache that neither time nor success could dull. They wanted him to pretend she never existed, or worse, replace her for branding purposes. He didn't know which was more offensive. Before he could think better of it, he grabbed his coat and keys. The cemetery was quiet, the sun hanging low in the sky, casting long golden shadows between the marble stones. Tyler walked alone, no bodyguards, no assistants, just him and the weight he carried. He stopped at her grave, simple, elegant, like her. Elizabeth Thone, beloved wife, fierce spirit, endless heart, 1987 to 2023. He crouched, brushing a leaf from the stone, and sat beside her. "They think I should remarry," he said, voice low. "Think it'll help with business, with appearances. Can you believe that?" He scoffed. "They say I've stopped living." His hands trembled. "But you were my life, Liz. You still are. And yeah, I've thrown myself into work, because if I stop, I remember the sound of that call. The way they said we did all we could, the silence afterward. I don't know how to let that go." The wind rustled the trees, as if listening. "I don't know if I'll ever be ready to move on, but I promise you, I won't let them cheapen what we had. I won't pretend you never existed, just to sign another deal. He stood, placing his hand gently on the stone. You're not a chapter, Liz. You're the story. And with that, he walked away, not healed, not whole, but reminded of who he was and who he refused to become. As Tyler made his way back to his penthouse that evening, the city lights blurring past his tinted windows, his phone buzzed in his coat pocket. He glanced at the screen. Nicole Green, Elizabeth's younger sister. He exhaled slowly before answering. Hey, Nicole, is something wrong? Her voice came through warm but slightly hesitant. No, everything's fine. The family's all right, but I need to talk to you. Tyler's brows drew together. Talk to me? What's going on? It's not an emergency, but it's something I'd really prefer to say in person, she replied. Also, the kids keep asking about you. They miss their Uncle Tyler. Tyler's expression softened. Nicole had 2 children, a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old who still clung to every memory of their Aunt Liz. In some small way, spending time with them reminded him of better days. He nodded to himself. How about lunch this Saturday? That's perfect, Nicole said quickly, her voice lifting. Please come, I really need to talk to you. It's important. Tyler's instincts kicked in again. Nicole, is something wrong? There was a pause. No, she said gently but firmly. Nothing's wrong. Just be here Saturday, okay? He hesitated, then sighed. All right, I'll be there. Thank you, Tyler. See you then. The call ended with a soft beep, leaving Tyler staring at the phone. Nicole was never cryptic. If something was truly wrong, she'd have said so. But the way she said in person stuck with him. And what could she possibly want to ask that she couldn't say over the phone? He tucked the phone back into his pocket, staring out the window. Whatever it was, he'd be ready. Or at least he hoped he would be. Tyler stepped out of his black SUV, adjusting his blazer as he approached Nicole's 2-story brick home, nestled in a quiet cul-de-sac just outside the city. Before he even reached the door, it swung open. Uncle Tyler! 3 voices squealed in near unison. In seconds, he was bombarded with hugs. Jerry, 11 and already almost shoulder height to him, wrapped his arms around Tyler's waist. Max, 9, clung to one leg while little Carol, 5 years old with curls bouncing around her cheeks, latched onto the other. Tyler laughed for the first time in what felt like weeks. All right, I surrender, he said, ruffling Jerry's hair. You guys trying to take me down or what? Mom said we could play soccer before lunch, Max said excitedly. Tea party after, Carol added seriously, tugging his hand. Soccer and tea? You guys are working me to the bone, he teased, letting them drag him to the backyard. For the next couple of hours, Tyler chased soccer balls, read from Carol's glitter-covered storybooks, and helped Max build a wobbly block tower taller than the coffee table. He didn't realize how much he missed laughter until he heard his own echoing alongside theirs. After lunch, the children disappeared upstairs, leaving Tyler and Nicole alone in the sunlit kitchen. A warm breeze drifted in from the open window. Nicole set down her coffee mug and folded her hands. I heard about the board's demands. Tyler's smile faded. I can't believe they think I should just move on like flipping a switch. I'm not going to fake a marriage just to land an overseas deal. I know, Nicole said gently, but maybe I can help you, if you'll let me. Tyler raised an eyebrow. Help me how? Nicole hesitated. You know I volunteer at Elizabeth's community center. There's a woman there, a family actually. They need help, real help, protection. I thought the center handles housing, job placement, food assistance? Tyler asked. It does, she nodded. But this is different. Autumn Fields, she's in serious danger. Her ex-husband has been making threats. He's unstable, and she's terrified he'll follow through, especially with the kids involved. Tyler's brow furrowed. What about the police? She's filed reports. But there's only so much the system can do unless he acts on the threat. And with Cameron, he's 4 and he has seizures. Her hands are tied. The medical bills alone are swallowing her. She can't just pack up and vanish. Tyler leaned back in his chair, expression cautious. And what does this have to do with me? Nicole met his gaze. You need a wife. On paper, a partner for those boardroom optics. She needs protection, security, and a clean slate. This could solve both problems. Tyler shot to his feet. No, absolutely not. You want me to marry a stranger? For appearances? That's exactly what I told the board I wouldn't do. She's not asking for love, Tyler, Nicole said, her voice rising slightly. She's asking for safety, for her children. You'd be giving her stability, insurance, a buffer from a man who's already crossed lines, and she'd be giving you the partnership they keep harping on. He turned away, fists clenched at his sides. You're asking me to use my wife's, her memory, to enter some fake arrangement for people I don't even know. No, Nicole said softly. I'm asking you to meet them, that's all. Just meet them before you make up your mind. Tyler didn't respond at first. He stared out the kitchen window, watching the wind ruffle the garden bushes. He could still hear Carol's laughter echoing faintly from upstairs. How old are the kids? He finally asked. Kayla is 7. Quiet but smart. Reads anything she can get her hands on. Cameron is 4. Sweet little boy. But the seizures hit hard when trigged by stress and fear. Autumn's barely keeping up. Nicole stood and stepped closer to him. Tyler, this isn't about business, or grief, or even moving on. This is about using what you have to protect someone who doesn't. You're one of the few people who can actually do something. And if it helps you deal with the pressure from the board along the way, well, maybe it's not a bad thing. Tyler sighed, rubbing his temples. What if I can't do it, Nicole? What if I meet her and I can't look at her without thinking of Liz? What if it feels wrong? Nicole's eyes softened. Then you walk away. I won't pressure you. But if you meet her and you see what I see, maybe you'll realize it's not wrong to care again. Even if it's in a different way. There was a long pause between them, heavy and unsure. Fine, he said finally, running a hand down his face. Set up the meeting. Nicole let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Thank you, Tyler. He looked back at her, the weight of the last 2 years resting heavy in his eyes. I'm not making promises, he said, but I'll meet her. And that was more than he'd said to anyone in a long, long time. Nicole sat on the edge of her couch, phone in hand. Rereading Autumn's message for the 3rd time. Autumn, I don't know about meeting tomorrow. Malcolm's been sitting outside my apartment door all day. I'm afraid to take the children anywhere. A chill ran down Nicole's spine. Malcolm had always been unpredictable, but this was dangerous. Tyler, she said, Autumn's in trouble. Malcolm's have camped outside her apartment all day. She's scared to leave with the kids. Tyler's voice was calm but firm. I'll send a car and my security detail. Tell her to pack clothes for a few days. I'll keep Malcolm distracted long enough to get her out. Nicole exhaled with relief. Thank you. Within the hour, a sleek black SUV pulled up to Autumn's building. The driver stepped out, accompanied by 2 discreet but imposing men in dark suits. Autumn hesitated as she peered through the peephole. Her children, Kayla and Cameron, were clinging to her legs. It's okay, guys, she said gently. We're going somewhere safe. Autumn ushered her children out the door, hearts pounding, duffel bags in hand. The security team flanked them, and within seconds they were inside the vehicle, driving away from the chaos that had become their home. The city faded behind them, the lights giving way to open skies and quiet roads. After nearly an hour, the SUV turned onto a long, gated driveway, surrounded by towering pines. Tyler's estate was a modern stone and glass structure tucked into the hills, serene. After the children had gone to bed, the house fell into a quiet stillness, broken only by the distant hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the floorboards. Tyler stood near the living room window, hands in his pockets, watching the moonlight cast silver streaks across the yard. Autumn entered the room softly, wrapping her arms around herself, her robe tied loosely at the waist. She sat on the edge of the couch and glanced at him. Tyler, what do you expect from me? As your wife, I mean. Tyler turned, caught off guard by the directness of her question. He slowly walked over and took a seat across from her, leaning forward, elbows on his knees. I'm not sure, he said honestly. This whole thing wasn't my idea. It was the board's. They've been on me to get back out there, to rejoin the social circuit. Apparently, the image of a grieving widower CEO doesn't play as well in international markets. He shook his head and gave a humorless laugh. I made them all rich beyond their dreams, and now they act like I'm a liability because I refuse to smile in photo ops or charm politicians at charity events. Autumn said nothing for a moment, letting him speak freely. His voice carried more weight than he realized. Anger, weariness, grief still lingering behind his composed mask. But if we do this, Tyler continued, his voice softening, I want you to know something. I'll treat you and the boys with respect. You'll have the best this life can offer, yes, but more importantly, you'll have my protection, my full support. I won't ever ask you to change who you are, Autumn. That's not what this is about. She looked at him, her eyes shining gently in the dim light. That said, he added, this life, it comes with expectations. Events, media, the way people look at you just because of who you're married to. It's not easy. If you ever feel uncomfortable, if you need help navigating it, I'll be there. I'll guide you through it. You're not alone in this. Autumn tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Have you told anyone else about what we're planning? No, Tyler replied. Only Nicole and you? She nodded slowly. I told the kids. I didn't give them all the details, but they know you'll be protecting us. Kayla asked if that meant you'd be like a dad. Tyler's eyes softened. And what did you say? I said maybe. He took a breath, his voice low and sincere. If we do this, I don't want to just protect them from your ex. I want to be there for them, as much as I can. I may not know how to be a father yet, but I'm willing to learn. Just like I'm willing to try to be a good husband. Autumn's eyes welled up with tears. She covered her mouth briefly, then looked at him, her voice trembling. Thank you, Tyler. I'm so grateful. This isn't what I imagined for my life, but if it gives my children peace, I'll do it. Tyler reached over and gently touched her hand. We'll take it one day at a time. No pressure, no pretending, just honesty. She nodded, wiping her tears. One day at a time. And in that moment, something fragile but real began to form between them. Not love, at least not yet, but a mutual understanding, built not on romance, but on choice, on the willingness to protect, support, and heal together. In the quiet shadows of the night, two broken people made a quiet vow, not of passion, but of purpose. And sometimes, that was the most powerful kind of beginning. The next morning, Nicole arrived just after breakfast, a warm smile on her face, and a to-go tray of lattes and juice boxes in hand. The kids rushed to her, as if she were a favorite aunt, and truthfully, she was. Autumn greeted her with a relieved hug, while Tyler stood nearby, arms folded, watching her with a small but appreciative nod. I wanted to check on everyone, Nicole said, setting the drinks on the kitchen counter, especially you two, separately. Tyler raised an eyebrow, but said nothing as Nicole pulled Autumn into the living room first. They sat near the window, the morning sun casting soft rays across the floor. How are you really doing? Nicole asked gently. Autumn hesitated, then exhaled. It's a lot. I've spent years making sure the kids and I fly under the radar, and now, we're stepping into the spotlight, even if it's controlled. I trust Tyler, but it's overwhelming. Nicole nodded. He's not the most emotionally available man, I know, but he is loyal. He doesn't take this lightly. I don't either, Autumn said quietly. This isn't just about a name on paper anymore. He's already trying, more than I expected. I guess I just want to be sure I'm enough for this world of his. Nicole squeezed her hand. You don't have to change. Just let him in. That's all he really needs. A few minutes later, Nicole stepped into Tyler's study. He was reviewing security updates on his laptop, but closed it when she entered. You holding up? She asked. Tyler shrugged. As much as I can be. I'm not used to explaining myself or staging my life, but for them, I'll do it. Nicole softened. You're doing more than you think. Autumn may not say it, but she's already starting to trust you. Don't underestimate what that means for her. A moment of silence passed between them before they both joined Autumn in the living room. All right, Nicole said, clapping her hands together. Now we need to get ahead of the press before they start snooping. We're going to craft a story that's honest enough to hold up, but safe enough to protect you. They sat together for over an hour, working out the details. They decided the public narrative would be this. Tyler met Autumn at the Elizabeth Thone Community Center during a donor event. She was a hard-working single mom, volunteering part-time while raising her children. Over the following months, Tyler and Autumn began talking more regularly. He was drawn to her strength, her resilience, and her quiet courage. As their friendship grew, so did his concern for her safety after learning about her ex-husband's threats. To ensure her protection, Tyler moved Autumn and her children into his private country estate, equipped with 24/7 security. Their bond deepened, and eventually, Tyler proposed. Parts of it are true, Tyler said. We just trimmed the edges. And if Malcolm thinks the public is watching, Nicole added, it might keep him in line. That evening, Tyler and Autumn sat the children down in the cozy den. Kayla, Cameron, and even Max and Jerry listened as they gently explained what was happening. We wanted to tell you everything, Autumn began, about what's going to happen next. You're going to see some changes, Tyler added. For a while, you'll be homeschooled, just until things calm down. Kayla's little face pinched in worry. What about Dad? He said he's going to take us away from Mom. Tyler leaned forward, his tone firm but calm. Kayla, I promise you, that will never happen. I won't let it. No one will take you from your mother. Not on my watch. Autumn placed a hand over Kayla's. You're safe now, all of you. Cameron, curled next to Max on the couch, nodded sleepily. Is Mr. Tyler really going to be our new daddy? Tyler gave him a small smile. If that's all right with you, I'd like to try. The room was quiet for a moment. Then Kayla leaned into her mother's side and whispered, okay. And just like that, their fractured pieces began stitching together. Not perfectly, but with something stronger than the past. The will to protect and the choice to trust. Autumn stayed tucked away in the quiet comfort of Tyler's country home for 3 weeks. It was a strange peace, one laced with uncertainty and quiet hope. During that time, the children adjusted to their homeschooling schedule, grew comfortable with the new security team, and bonded more with Tyler during their daily breakfasts and evening board games. Still, the looming introduction to the board members felt like a heavy storm on the horizon. When the day finally came, Tyler arranged a private luncheon at the executive wing of Thone Security Technology. The board members arrived sharply dressed, full of anticipation and polite smiles that didn't quite reach their eyes. Autumn entered the room beside Tyler, wearing a soft navy blue dress and a pair of low heels that Nicole insisted made her look graceful but commanding. Kayla and Cameron clung close to her side as they stepped into the lion's den of expectations. Some board members stood and offered handshakes, while others remained seated, lips tight, disappointment faint but detectable. Autumn noticed the lingering glances, measuring her appearance, her posture, her background. She wasn't from their circle, and it showed. Tyler, ever the composed CEO, ignored their subtle reactions and stood tall beside her. This is Autumn Fields, he said clearly, placing a hand at the small of her back. And these are Kayla and Cameron. They're my family now. The word family landed like a thunderclap in the room. He didn't give anyone a chance to interject. We'll be getting married in 4 weeks. There were exchanged looks. Someone cleared their throat. Finally, Robert Mills, the oldest on the board, asked cautiously, and when will we be seeing you both at public functions? Tyler paused for a moment, the air heavy with unspoken expectations. Then he nodded, soon. Later that afternoon, Tyler gave Autumn and the kids a full tour of the Thone security building. They walked through research labs, tech offices, and glass-walled boardrooms. At every stop, Tyler introduced them with pride. This is my fiancée, Autumn, and our children, Kayla and Cameron. Each time he said it, our children, Autumn felt a twinge of something unexpected. She wasn't used to being claimed or seen. But Tyler wasn't just protecting her, he was including her, making her visible. That scared her and encouraged her. By the time they reached the executive floor, Autumn felt the gravity of his commitment. It wasn't just words. He was reshaping his life and his world to make room for them. For her. And while part of her still questioned if she truly fit into it, another part, growing stronger, maybe she did. Tyler returned to his office, his steps steady, but the weight of the board meetings still clinging to his shoulders. Autumn followed behind him quietly, unsure if she should stay close or give him space. She was still adjusting to how seamlessly her presence now blended into his daily routine. She was no longer a guest, she was part of his world now. As Tyler sat behind his desk, his longtime attorney, Morgan Wellington, stepped into the room holding a leather folder and a cautious expression. "Tyler, do you have a moment?" Morgan asked, his voice low and clipped. "I'd like to speak with you, privately." Tyler glanced up and gestured toward Autumn, who had taken a seat across from him. "You can speak freely in front of Autumn. There's no need for secrecy." Morgan shifted uncomfortably. "Are you sure? This is regarding the wedding and some documentation." Tyler leaned back, his fingers steepled. "Go ahead." Morgan cleared his throat and opened the folder. "Given your status, assets, and public visibility, I think it's appropriate we discuss a prenuptial agreement, or at the very least, a wedding contract to protect both parties. It's standard procedure, nothing personal." Tyler's expression darkened just slightly. "That won't be necessary." Morgan blinked, caught off guard. "Excuse me?" "I said," Tyler repeated slowly, "that won't be necessary." "Tyler," Morgan said, clearly trying to maintain his composure, "with all due respect, you're merging your life, estate, and name with someone outside our typical legal framework. We need to consider inheritance, business holdings." Tyler stood, his voice calm but firm. "Autumn will be my wife. Kayla and Cameron will be my sons. That's the end of it. I won't insult my future wife with paperwork that assumes mistrust." Morgan looked from Tyler to Autumn, his mouth tightening. "Autumn," he said carefully, "surely you understand this is not personal. It's about protecting everyone involved, including you. No one is questioning your intentions, but—" Autumn stood slowly, her voice steady though her heart pounded. "I'll sign any document you put in front of me, Mr. Wellington," she said. "I'm marrying Tyler for his money, right?" Her lips curved, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. "That's what you're thinking. Let's just be honest about it." Tyler's gaze snapped to her, sharp and protective. "No," he said, turning back to Morgan. "She won't sign anything. Elizabeth didn't sign one, and I'm not asking Autumn to either. If you want to keep your job, Morgan, you'll leave now and never bring this up again." Morgan's jaw tightened, but he gathered his folder without another word. With a curt nod, he exited the office, tension lingering in his wake. Autumn waited until the door clicked shut before she spoke again. "Why did you do that?" she asked, her voice quiet but full of disbelief. "You didn't have to protect me like that." Tyler walked around his desk and stood in front of her, his eyes searching hers. "I told you I would treat you with respect. That means not questioning your integrity just because you weren't born into wealth. I know who you are. I don't need a piece of paper to protect myself from you." Her eyes shimmered, but before she could respond, a small voice called from the hallway. "Mom, Mr. Tyler, can we get ice cream now?" Tyler turned toward the voice with a chuckle. Perfect timing. He looked back at Autumn, a gentle smile forming on his lips. "What do you say? Lunch and ice cream with our son?" Autumn blinked, the word "our" warming something deep inside her. She smiled back and nodded. "Let's go." And just like that, the tension faded. The business, the contracts, the expectations, they all took a back seat to the simple joy of taking a child out for ice cream. For Tyler, that was the only contract that mattered now. The quiet, powerful promise to be present, not just in name, but in heart. Over the following weeks, the estate slowly transformed. Nicole and Autumn worked tirelessly, planning a small, elegant wedding on the west lawn, where the sunset would serve as the perfect backdrop. Simple floral arrangements, soft linen drapes, and a few close friends and family. It would be intimate and peaceful, just as Autumn wanted. The children were thrilled to be part of it. Cameron practiced carrying a velvet pillow with plastic rings, while Kayla took her role as junior attendant very seriously, insisting on helping Nicole choose table settings and flower petals. Tyler, for his part, made sure the children felt involved every step of the way, from fittings to cake tasting. With them, he was warm, present, and open. But with Autumn, something was different. He was kind, respectful, but distant. Nicole noticed. One afternoon, while finalizing seating arrangements, she pulled Tyler aside near the rose archway. "You need to let that wall down," she said gently, but firmly. "What wall?" Tyler asked, feigning ignorance. "The one you keep between you and Autumn," Nicole said. "People will be watching, Tyler. If you two are going to sell this marriage and maybe even grow into something real, you have to show a little intimacy. At least hold her hand when you're standing together." Tyler exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. "I know. It's hard not to feel like I'm betraying Elizabeth." Nicole crossed her arms. "So what are you going to do at the altar? Shake hands when the minister says, 'You may now kiss the bride'?" The color drained from Tyler's face, panic creeping in. "Wait, no. I hadn't even thought about that." "Breathe," Nicole said, placing a steady hand on his arm. "Breathe, Tyler." Just then, Autumn walked up, catching the tension in the air. "What's going on?" Nicole smirked. "Your husband just realized he's going to have to kiss you at the wedding." Autumn rolled her eyes. She knelt gently in front of Tyler, her voice soft. "Hey, it's okay. Just imagine yourself standing next to Elizabeth." Tyler stared at her, stunned into silence, unsure whether to be grateful or heartbroken. Autumn stood and quietly walked away, leaving him alone with the weight of her words. Late that evening, the house was still. The children in the dining room, the event planning paused for the night. Autumn hesitated in front of Tyler's office door, then gently knocked. Inside, Tyler was finishing a phone call, his voice low but tense. "Yes, we'll finalize the logistics tomorrow. I've got to go." He ended the call abruptly and stood up, adjusting the cuffs of his shirt as she stepped in. "Sorry to interrupt, but dinner is ready," Autumn said softly. "No," he replied quickly. "I'm glad you came. Just wait a second. I need to say something first." She gave a curious nod and closed the door behind her, folding her arms gently as she waited. Tyler stepped closer, his expression sincere, almost vulnerable. "About earlier today, when I was panicking in the garden, I wanted to thank you." Autumn tilted her head. "It wasn't a big deal, Tyler." "It was to me," he said firmly. "In my world, my social group, what happened out there would have made headlines. A CEO brought to his knees by a wedding kiss. I would have been painted as a weak man, a man not in control." He glanced down, then slowly reached out and took her hands in his. "But you didn't make me feel weak. You made me feel seen, safe." Autumn's breath caught, surprised by his honesty. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Tyler gave her hands a gentle squeeze. "Let's go eat. The boys are probably halfway through dessert without us." As they walked down the hall, still hand in hand, Autumn noticed how naturally it happened, how his fingers leased through hers like they'd done it for years. And when they stepped into the dining room, the reaction was instant. Cameron jumped up from his chair. "They're holding hands," he shrieked with a giggle. Kayla clapped excitedly. Max looked up from his plate, eyes wide. "Do we call her Mrs. Thone yet?" Laughter bubbled up all around the table, but it was Nicole's worn, knowing smile that sealed the moment. She gave Tyler an approving nod and winked. He met her eyes and smiled back. Not out of obligation, but because, for the first time in a long time, it felt right. It wasn't a show. It wasn't strategy. It was a step forward, together. The next morning at Thone Security Technology, the calm hum of business activity flowed uninterrupted until a name no one expected appeared on the visitor log. Malcolm Fields. He was escorted without announcement to one of the smaller conference rooms on the executive floor. The security team was already briefed, and a silent guard stood just outside the glass door. Malcolm, dressed in wrinkled slacks and a shirt that had seen better days, slouched in the leather chair and drummed his fingers on the table. When Tyler entered, flanked by his lawyer Morgan Wellington, Malcolm straightened slightly, but his eyes burned with resentment. "Tyler Thone," Malcolm said with a sneer, his voice laced with bitterness. "So nice of you to meet me. Tell me, How are my wife and my kids?" Tyler said nothing, simply took a seat across the table and locked eyes with him. His face remained unreadable. Malcolm leaned back, feigning casualness. "Must be nice. I saw the articles, the engagement announcement, country estate weddings, public sympathy, boardroom success. While he leaned forward now, voice sharpening, "lost my job. Can't get another. Your media circus saw to that. No one wants to hire me. Says I'm unstable. Thanks to you." Still, Tyler didn't flinch. His gaze never left Malcolm's. Malcolm laughed humorlessly and rested his elbows on the table. "Well, since you've got my wife keeping your bed warm, I think it's only fair I get something for my losses." Tyler remained silent for a long beat, then slowly reached into the inner pocket of his blazer and pulled out a checkbook. He laid it on the table. "How much?" he asked flatly. Malcolm's eyes lit with greed. "For Autumn and the kids, 500,000. That seems fair." Just then, Morgan stepped forward and placed a thick folder on the table in front of Malcolm. "What's this?" Malcolm asked, eyeing it suspiciously. "Legal documents," Morgan said calmly. "By signing them, you agree to willingly forfeit all parental rights to Kayla and Cameron. In return, Mr. Thone is granted full adoption rights. The children will legally become his heirs and bear the Thone family name, now and in the future." Malcolm's smirk faltered. He stared at the folder, then flicked his eyes back at Tyler, who sat unmoving, his expression cold and steady. "You want to erase me?" Malcolm hissed. Tyler said nothing. Malcolm scoffed. "And what if I don't sign, huh?" Morgan didn't blink. He calmly pulled out a second folder and opened it slowly, sliding a few pages across the table. "Then we'll have no choice but to go public with these. Evidence from your former employer of illegal dealings, internal theft, and falsified invoices, not to mention your gambling debts, and these threatening messages you sent to your ex-wife over the past year." Malcolm's face turned crimson as he glanced over the documents, his hands clenched into fists on the table. "This is blackmail." "No," Morgan said with a light shrug. "It's justice, the kind you avoided. You walked away from your family. You threatened them, will risk your children's safety, and you gambled away any hope of redemption." Malcolm stood abruptly, pacing the room like a caged animal. He swore under his breath, then looked at Tyler, who hadn't moved an inch. After a long moment, Malcolm froze, grabbed the pen from the folder, and scrawled his signature across the line. "I'll take the money," he muttered. Morgan picked up the document and reviewed the signature. Then he reached into his briefcase and handed Malcolm an envelope. Malcolm opened it, revealing a check for $500,000 with Tyler's name printed at the top. He smirked as he tucked it into his jacket. "Pleasure doing business with you," he muttered before walking out with an arrogant strut. The door closed behind him. Morgan shook his head, chuckling. "That smile won't last long." Tyler finally leaned back in his chair. "Why not?" "Because that account's been closed for 2 years, Morgan said, a grin tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Check's worthless, just like him." Tyler exhaled, a rare chuckle escaping him. "Let him take it to the bank. That moment of false victory is the last win he'll ever get." Morgan nodded in agreement. "And now, you're free, legally, publicly, permanently." Tyler rose, straightening his cuffs. "So are they." As he walked back to his office, Tyler felt a weight lift from his chest. Autumn and the children were no longer tethered to a man who used fear as leverage. They were his family now, chosen, protected, and claimed. And this time, no one could take them away. That evening, the house was quiet when Tyler arrived home. The kids were already upstairs, winding down from dinner, and the warm lights of the living room cast a soft glow over the space. Autumn was curled up on the couch, flipping through a book, but she looked up the moment he walked in. "Hey," she greeted, noting the unreadable expression on his face. "Can you come into my office for a minute?" he asked gently. Curious, she followed him down the hall. As soon as the door closed behind them, Tyler turned to her with a steady gaze. "Malcolm came by the office today," he began. Autumn's brows furrowed in concern. He what? He came in asking for money, Tyler continued. $500,000. Autumn's mouth dropped open in shock. You're kidding. I wish I was, he said. But I want you to see what came out of it. He stepped behind his desk and picked up a manila folder, walking it over to her. She took it hesitantly, her fingers trembling as she opened it. Her eyes scanned the pages, the legal documents confirming Malcolm's full surrender of parental rights. Her breath caught. He signed away his rights? She whispered. Just like that? Tyler nodded. He's out of their lives, for good. But that's not all. He slowly dropped to one knee in front of her. Autumn gasped softly, staring at him as he reached for her hands. I didn't do this for control or optics. I did it because I love those kids, and I want to protect them the way a father should. Autumn, I'd like to be their legal guardian. I'd like to be their father. Her lips quivered, eyes filling with tears. Without a word, she leaned forward and kissed him, soft, full of emotion. Tyler responded instinctively, kissing her back, his hands resting on her knees, his heart thudding in his chest. When they pulled apart, he smiled through misty eyes, and while I'm at it, he said, still kneeling, Autumn Fields, will you marry me? She laughed through her tears, cupping his face in her hands. Yes, yes, Tyler, absolutely yes. And as they embraced again, surrounded by silent joy and shared promises, a new chapter began, one not built on obligation or protection, but love. The following weekend, under a clear blue sky and surrounded by a small circle of friends and family, Tyler and Autumn were married on the west lawn of the Thone estate. The ceremony was simple but beautiful. White roses lined the aisle, and the soft rustle of trees provided a peaceful backdrop to their vows. Autumn wore an elegant lace gown that fluttered in the breeze, her hair pinned softly with delicate pearls. Tyler stood tall in a classic black suit, his eyes never leaving hers as they exchanged promises that held far more weight than words alone. The children stood proudly at their sides, Kayla beaming as she held Autumn's bouquet, and Cameron clutching the velvet pillow, this time with real rings. When the minister finally said, "You may now kiss the bride," Tyler didn't hesitate for even a second. He reached for Autumn, cupped her face gently, and kissed her, not for the crowd, not for appearances, but for himself, for her, for the life they were building. The cheers that erupted behind them were immediate and thunderous. Nicole stood in the front row, wiping tears from her eyes, her heart full. Watching her late sister's husband, once hollow and closed off, now take a bold public step forward into something new, something whole again, moved her more than she expected. It was a wedding born of protection, but sealed with love. A few months later, a new chapter unfolded. The adoption was officially approved. In a quiet courtroom ceremony, Tyler signed the final paperwork, and becoming Kayla and Cameron Thone. They were given new birth certificates, and that evening, Tyler hosted a small family celebration in their honor. The kids proudly wore shirts that read Team Thone, running through the estate with laughter and frosting on their fingers. Meanwhile, Malcolm's story took a different turn. After attempting to cash the bogus check from the long-closed company account, he was arrested for fraud and false representation. With the evidence already stacked against him, including his prior actions, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison. Justice had taken its course, and for the Thone family, healing had taken root. Not perfectly, not all at once, but deeply, and this time, for good. The end. Thanks listening to Green Tea Tales. Help our channel to grow with like, share, and subscribe.